Welcome back. With college basketball behind us, we can shift our focus towards Major League Baseball. 1 week into the season, we've seen some hot starts across the board. The NL West expects to be a dominant division this year with the San Diego Padres and defending champion LA Dodgers leading the way, while the NL East and Central should both be competitive as well. The AL has a loaded East division with the Yankees, Orioles, Rays, and Blue Jays expected to be contenders. Meanwhile, the AL Central and AL West both have some major contenders. I'm joined now by Marena, Sever, and Jack McGarr to debate the best division in the MLB.
I think, hands down, the most loaded, best division in the MLB right now is the NL East. It's the Braves, the Phillies, the Mets, the Marlins, and the Nationals.
Yeah.
And the simple bottom line is there's not a bad team in that division. They will all contend not only to win the division, but they're all good teams. We're in a situation with the NL East where we could very well see the fifth place team still go 500, and that, I don't know how it gets any more black and white than that. All 5 teams are good teams. It's not only the best division, the most loaded division. I think it's the most exciting division to watch this season, all around, all 5 teams. And I just think it's as simple as that.
I think when we're looking at the most loaded division, I think you have to look at the NL West when you have arguably the 2 top contenders for the championship this year in the Dodgers and the Padres. I really don't know how you can get more stacked or loaded than that. I really think when you're looking at loaded, I think you have to look at how many teams can actually vie for a championship spot, not just a playoff spot. How far can they go? How can they really push for a championship? And I think when you look at the Dodgers and the Padres, those are the 2 best teams in the league, in my opinion, and you have them in the same division. I think that's really the most loaded division in baseball right now.
Yeah, that's a good argument, but at the end of the day, they also benefit from getting to play a combined 57 games each against Diamondbacks, Giants, and the Rockies.
Yeah.
And those are teams that make it so much easier for them. And I think also those teams are disadvantaged because they have to play the Padres and the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I will make the argument that the Braves should be up there as one of the best teams in the MLB. And I'm not even biased to the Braves. I just think they don't have a weakness. And that's the thing with all of these teams in the NL East is that they're just so well-rounded, and even in places when they're not, like the Nationals, they struggle offensively besides Soto and Turner, even though they've brought in some bats like Bell and Schwarber. But their starting pitching is so good that they only need to get a couple runs on the board to reliably have a chance to win each game because that rotation is so great front to back. So, and it's the same way with every other team in terms of the one weakness that they maybe have. They have so many other strengths that make up for it that it doesn't take them out of contention, not only for winning the division, but also for being, I think, a championship contending team. I will argue that the Braves could absolutely contend for a championship. The last time we played 162 games, the Nationals won, and they were the lowest team going into the playoffs that year, and they still took the title. So they've got resilience on that team. It was their pitching that got them through it. Of course, the Mets, everyone's high on Lindor right now. They brought him in, and I think I can expect him to be a big difference maker. The Phillies re-signing Real Muto, Harper, obviously. And even the Marlins, they're kind of young and hungry, and they've got this rebellious teenager vibe where they're trying to fight their big brothers and fight out of it. And of course, notable in the offseason was Kim Ng, and they did compete they won a playoff series last year, the Marlins did.
Yeah.
So I just think top to bottom, this is a top to bottom division. There's not a bad team in the division. They're all going to contend for a playoff spot. And once they get into the playoffs, I would expect NL East teams to have really, really high playoff success.
I think to your argument too that the Padres and the Dodgers have to play and kind of beat up on those lower teams in their division. I think really it's only helping their playoff success just getting into the playoffs. Once they get to the playoffs, they're playing whoever they have to play. They don't really care who it is. I think really just that they're beating up in the division is really just getting them to the postseason. I think once they get to the postseason, I think the Dodgers and the Padres are going to show that they are the best teams in the league, and they're going to beat up on whoever they play. But to your point that, really that division is just top down, all 5 teams. But I think when you look at who's really fighting for the championship spot, and you have to include the Dodgers and the Padres and really say these 2 teams are the best teams in the league, and really you have to look at those in that division.
Yeah, absolutely. But even to your point, what you're saying, people look at the NL West and they see a 2-headed monster. All they see is LA and San Diego, and your argument is proof of that because that's what it's contingent on. With the NL East, you can't ignore any team in the NL East, not even the Marlins, who again are kind of like that little brother when they're in the spot to be fighting their way to the top.
Yeah.
You still can't count them out. You can't. They've got a great young team, and I think I really expect all of the teams in the NL East to contend. I just can't say it enough. There are 5 teams in the NL East that are all good teams vying for the playoffs and that could possibly all go above 500. With the NL West, it's 2. Maybe the Giants contending for a wild card spot, and that's being really generous.
Yeah.
So absolutely, the Dodgers and the Padres, that's the most anticipated matchup all season. They get 19 games together. Of course, my favorite team, the Diamondbacks, is in the NL West. We just did a 4-game series against the Padres, and it was horrible. It was the worst thing I've ever watched. So I understand the hype around them, and of course they are great teams. But most loaded division, best division, there's not a bad team in the NL East. There are bad teams in the NL West, and it pains me to say that. It pains me to admit that. But that's just the way that it is. 5 is greater than 2. That's the end of the argument for me.
Yeah, I think really just for me, it's when I think of loaded, it's just how many teams are really vying for that championship spot. I agree with you. There are at least 4 teams, possibly 5, in the NL East that are contending for playoff spots. But I think really in the NL West, there are 2 teams that are vying for championship spots.
Absolutely.
So I think really in my opinion, that's what I looked at as loaded, is how many championship teams do I see? I see 2 there. I see maybe 1 in that division.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I guess we're just going to have to agree to disagree, but certainly lots of very exciting matchups to be coming out of both of these divisions. I'm excited for the playoffs. Of course, it's looking like a great season so far. I know we're like 5 games in, but in a 162-game stretch that we get back this year, I'm really excited to see how it goes for sure.
Same here.
All right, well,
yeah.
we are going to send it over to a break, and we'll be right back.